everyone, and welcome. I'm Jill Newbronner, and you're with News 5. Here are the top stories. Most of Singapore's foreign worker dormitories to be cleared of COVID-19 in 2 weeks. Tighter crowd control measures to be imposed at parks and beaches. They will be closed once they're near capacity limits. With more job losses expected as the pandemic bites, NTUC is proposing a fair retrenchment framework to protect workers. In a tit-for-tat move, China orders the U.S. consulate in Chengdu closed, capping a week of soaring tensions between both sides. Now, Singapore has reported 277 new cases of COVID-19 today, and this brings the national tally past 49,300. There are 5 community cases, 2 of whom are Singaporeans or permanent residents. The rest are work pass holders. There are also 2 imported cases today. They had been placed on stay-home notice upon arrival. The vast majority of cases remain work permit holders living in foreign worker dormitories. COVID-19 patients requiring breathing support could soon have access to a new type of ventilator. It's about 5 times cheaper compared with a conventional ventilator and can be quickly produced in about a month. Now, the ventilator is designed by a team of Singaporean doctors and engineers. It can be used in a pandemic when conventional ventilators are short in supply. The ventilator uses ambient air instead of high-pressure medical gas and can be operated remotely. This reduces the risk of infection for doctors and nurses.
If you need a specific, very extreme kind of support, then a conventional ventilator is better. But for the patients who don't need as much support, but they do need some kind of breathing assistance, then this is definitely better than having nothing at all.
We built it with the help of our local SMEs. So the sensors, particularly that's important in this build, is all provided by the local industry. So we will not have issue of part shortage, especially if the situations, turn to be very intense. The issue of supply chain disruption can be then mitigated. That's why the overall build cost and the speed of build can be manageable.
Now, all migrant worker dormitories in Singapore are expected to be cleared by early August, with the exception of 17 standalone blocks which serve as quarantine facilities. The Ministerial Task Force on COVID-19 says the vast majority of foreign workers would also be cleared by then, except for 28,000 workers still serving out isolation periods.
Actually means for businesses is that they should be starting to get ready for their workers to come back and join their businesses again, restart again. So the Ministerial Task Force actually said that this is the time now over the next 2-3 weeks to make sure that all your safe distancing measures are in place. If, for example, you run a construction business or any other business that uses migrant workers for, say, essential services, this is the time now to make sure you've got safe distancing measures not just at work sites, but also on your transportation and also in the housing of these migrant workers. Work with the Building and Constructions Authority, work with the Economic Development Board, submit these requirements, submit what your proposals and what you've already done, get them cleared so that by the middle of August, when the majority of migrant workers are prepared to come back into your economy, business will also be ready to resume. Now, as for these 28,000 workers who are still only completing their isolation by the first week of August, now this group of people, there will be further testing. It will take a little bit more time. Some of them may need to be isolated a little bit more, go into quarantine again. There's still that cycle that's going to take place.
Because we are now reaching, gaining momentum in this final stage for dorm clearance for testing, the high numbers of recorded and reported in the media will likely continue for the next week or so. And in fact, the numbers may also increased compared to what it was over the last few days. And this is just because we are now testing a lot more aggressively in the remaining dormitories with a view towards clearing the remaining workers that are there.
It will probably remain in phase 2 for a little bit while longer. The next checkpoint is actually a few weeks after the dorms have been completely cleared, and that's when they will assess again the kinds of measures that will be taken then, and that will be very unlikely to go into phase 3. For example, they actually said that it's most likely to be a loosening of the current parameters, but very immediately right now the task force said that the main problem is that there is what they see as a large congregations of people who are going to places like parks, beaches, nightlife, and that's a place where they will be stepping up enforcement, stepping up operations. The next thing on the horizon is actually the opening of the border between Singapore and Malaysia. Now, that's supposed to be slated for August 10th, but that's really for essential workers, official travel, and also working towards having more daily commuting between people who need to live and work between the two countries. But as for, all of us who want to dying for a long weekend trip to travel to Johor Bahru, for instance, actually the health minister said also quite unequivocally that that's very unlikely to happen in the near future.
Companies that have to lay off workers should protect jobs for Singaporeans while giving due consideration to foreigners who have special or critical skills. And that's under the Labour Movement's proposed guidelines to ensure fair retrenchment. It says it expects more layoffs to become inevitable in the coming months.
Resort World Sentosa's high-profile retrenchment